The California Superbike School is a brainchild of one man, Keith Code.
The research project basically started about 1976 while I was racing myself in the mid-70s to train other people who were riding. The guys would come to me at my house, and I'd spend a day with them, and we'd rattle around and go through some written material that I had jotted down from my own observations, and then we'd get through that material so that I was sure they understood it, and then we'd come out to the track. I was really proud of it, I have to say. I was getting an average of 7 seconds a lap improvement. So I got kind of interested in it, and I thought, oh, okay, this looks like it works, because everybody was making improvements. Right. And then what I'd see with them and so on, I'd try to bring it to the school, And I was still in the process of trying to observe what was going on. I had written the first A Twist of the Wrist book in 1982, and there wasn't anything else out there, which is really the reason I started.
Yeah.
These guys know, and they're just not telling me, right? I would ask questions, and here's some guy, he's a pretty fast guy, or he's a famous fast guy, you go over and you try to ask a serious question about, so, when you're like coming up to a corner, you're doing this thing, and you're like, right, tell me about that. More gas, less brake, or something silly like that. And I go, nah, there's got to be something more here.
Your job as a rider, the fundamental and basic and underlying goal is to keep the bike stable. Because if the bike feels stable underneath you, you feel confident. So your job today as a rider is to keep the bike stable. And if you only ever remember those 4 words by the end of today, you'll be a much better rider as a result of it, because you know what your job is to keep the bike stable. So we're going to have it as a mantra today. So what's your job?
Keep the bike stable.
We can break that down. Front and rear brakes, clutch, as we said, steering left to right. Okay, but essentially this is how we interact with the bike. There are only those 4 things. You as the rider, you bring something to this formula as well, if you like. Every rider on this planet, as well as using these 4 things, also brings with them 5 concerns when they're cornering. Now, what things do you assess and what things do you analyse as you come up to and through a turn? What are the 5 things that you want to be right? Speed's 1, good. Line, yeah. And we can add to that, you can add all your vision aspects to that, because essentially you're using your vision to define the line, aren't you? Grip, yes. Weather conditions is going to come under one I've already said, which is surface. Okay, now they're slightly different. I'll come to that in just a moment. What else concerns you? Lean angle. Lean angle, good. These are the 5 basics. Now what's nice about these things is they interact with each other. If you get one of them right, the others are right. Unfortunately, if you get one of them wrong, the others also become wrong as well. For example, you come up to the corner, you're looking at the surface, and you see it's covered in diesel. What are you going to change? You change that, this, and this, aren't you? Which of these is going to help us to keep the bike stable? Steering. This is actually the only positive time where instability is a good thing, but it is an unstable point. Brakes then. Stable or unstable?
Unstable.
Yeah. If you use them correctly, will the bike be stable? Should be, yes, should be. If you use them incorrectly? Okay, definitely unstable. So really you can't make any improvements to stability with the brakes. Gears then, stable or unstable?
Unstable.
Yeah, it's the same again, isn't it? If you use them correctly, the bike will be as it should be. There's a status quo. If you use them badly, then the bike becomes unstable. Throttle then. Well, there's a slight difference, isn't there? Could you improve stability with the throttle?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the difference then, isn't it? Does the throttle have any effect on your 5 concerns?
Yes.
Which ones?
Everything.
Okay, so that's not everything then. Who came here to go slower today? Okay, so what do you want to do with your speed? Yeah, you want to come out of the corner faster than you went in. Yes or no? Yeah. you come out of the corner faster than you went in, do you smile more? Yes. Okay, good. Let's confess that now, all right? Okay, so we have to open the throttle then to make sure that the bike comes out the corner a little bit quicker. If we don't open it, then we don't achieve our goal with speed. Make sense? Yep. Okay. Throttle control is one of the most fundamental things that riders have to get right. If they can't get the throttle right, then the line will be wrong, grip will be wrong, the bike won't deal with the surface particularly well, they won't have particularly good grip, and they certainly won't have the sort of speed that they'd like to have coming out of the turn. So with the throttle, although it's a very basic thing that we learn at a very early age, it is something that we need to refine to be able to get the best out of the bike and the best out of ourselves. So, go through it again. The throttle control rule is this. Once the bike is turned, once we've got it online, we crack the throttle. That means we start it. And from the moment we start it, we roll it evenly, smoothly, and continuously to the end of the turn. Any break in that rule, the bike will become unstable. So the first part of having good stability through the corner then is to set your entry speed right. What we have is we have a sense of speed. Okay? Sense of speed is something that's different for every single person. And it's made up of a bit of vision, it's a bit of what we feel on the bike, it's how comfortable we are with grip. But it's a sense, it's a feeling. Would you agree that you've got it? Yeah. Well, you must have done. If you've been into the corner too fast or too slow, something must have told you that. Yeah, it wasn't the speedo, was it? Was it? If any of you are doing that before you approach the turn, there's some problems. It really is. Okay, let me ask you this. If you took your bike for a service, took your bike out the shop, took it a bit easy because you got, I know, some new tyres on, and then you went out onto the open road and think, okay, time to give it some now, came up to the first corner and you discovered that they hadn't done your brakes properly. And you went, okay? Would you think more about your sense of speed from that point on? Yes. How much consideration would you give it? It would be all, wouldn't it? Okay. So, would you agree then that if we had no brakes, we would concentrate on our entry speed more? Okay. So, first part of the riding format today, no brakes. How else could I free up some attention for you to concentrate on your entry speed? Don't change gears. So we're going to use fourth gear. Does that make sense? Okay. Let me just clarify a bit on no brakes. Not cast in stone. All right. If you come up behind another rider, and let's say they're on a big twin, and they go, "Boo," and you go, then maybe a little bit of brakes okay in that situation. By the end of your first riding session, I expect you to be able to have done at least one lap where you didn't touch the brakes at all. Okay? Now, this includes comfort braking or teddy bear braking. You ever done this? Yeah. That's where you come up to the corner and your sense of speed goes, it's okay. We'll do the corner at this speed, no problems at all. And your fingers go. Yeah? They just touch the brake, don't they? You know, you don't actually slow down or anything, you just kind of go, ah. Yeah, do you have any questions on this so far?
Yeah, trust me. The speed of this is sort of pretty steady and slow. We're not trying to obviously do anything silly.
How hard do you want to try? Yeah, today's about learning today. Okay, I'm pretty sure that as you could go faster today, but what I'm looking at as a general overall is I'm looking at about 85% maximum. Okay, why do you think we're looking for that sort of level? You can learn at that level, that's right. You start riding at 90, 95, 100%, how much do you learn? No. Well, you learn how to get scared and to make mistakes. But today's about correcting all those mistakes. So, okay, yeah, today the pace will be slower, but it's a school. It's not a track day. It's a school about learning how to do it properly. And to do it properly, you've got to be able to do it at a speed that allows you to cope with that. Remember, what we're doing today is we're taking your riding apart. And we're going to slowly start building it back up together. Okay? So we'll start this morning. We've just done that. And as the day goes on, with each lesson, you'll find it starting to work with the previous lesson and the previous lesson and the previous lesson. And by the end of the day, the last lesson will just make it all go and click into place. Okay? Does that make sense? So, yeah, I'm asking you as a student to ride at a level that allows you to learn. If you find yourself in this situation, you come up to the corner, it's wet, you go, okay, I want to apex over there. it's wet, I don't want much lean. So you go. It's not working, is it? Still needs to be over there. So what you're going to have to do some more of. Okay, how are you feeling at this point? Okay, so as you're leaning it more, what's happening to the level of grip you got? Okay, so put a little bit of that in now, shall we? All right, still not there yet. What are you going to have to do some more of? There, and then you go, and you're coming out the corner and you're going. See the situation that you end up in? So had you come into the corner and turned it in and cracked the throttle just a little bit, and then just wound it on a little bit, would it have held its line better? Would you have had to have used as much lean angle? Okay, so I'm just giving you an example of how throttle control is just as important in the wet as it is in the dry, and how our natural reaction is to do the opposite thing all the time. The concept of turn points, the basic idea is to stop riders from turning too early. We have a natural tendency to turn into a corner much, much earlier than we need to do. It doesn't create too many problems at the beginning of the turn, but lots and lots of riders run wide on a corner because of turning too early. Now, where the bloody hell does this corner go? You know, go through, Ever done that? Okay, what happens to your lean angle? Yes, it's all over the place, isn't it? Because your line's all over the place. If you want, again, if you've got a good line through the turn, if the bike's holding the line, then you'll have consistent and predictable lean angle. It's going to sound like a very simple question. How do you know it's time to turn in? What influences you?
Running that road.
Right, yeah, absolutely. Running that road is one of them. This is our corner. Now we're coming down here. One of the things that's going to influence is the fact that it goes to the left. I hope. Okay, so in this area here, we call the no-go zone. All right? It's also been called the painful zone, the expensive zone. What about here, then, compared to that? Why do you feel more comfortable with the inside of the turn than the outside of the turn?
You've got more track to play with at the start.
You've got more space, haven't you?
Space,
Yeah. So we tend to perceive this as safer as a result of that. Safer part of the corner. The reason that you think it's the safer part of the corner is because you've got more room. Now, what do you need that room for? To screw it up in. Let's be fair. Right, so you think that's safer because you've got more room to crash in. Do you also agree with this statement that you go where you look? So if you start looking into the corner as soon as possible, what's that going to do to your approach line, your entry line? You're going to start turning in, aren't you? Okay, so that's going to influence when you turn as well. So it comes to this bit here, vision. Now, if you combine this with this and going where you look, it creates a line that actually feels quite comfortable at the beginning of the turn. Okay, it's a nice gradual peeling into the corner. But how many of you have discovered that by using that line that you have to make steering corrections this area here? What's happening? Turning in too early, aren't you? What it's actually doing is creating a decreasing radius turn. We kind of reversed it. Let's bring it in a little later and turn it and do that with it. How many of you know exactly where you're turning for each and every corner out there at the moment? Exactly. Turn in a different place every time, then it's going to affect the throttle control each time. Does that make sense? So what do we need? We need a marker. So guess what? I'll give you some markers. Instead of you even having to find your own, I'll give you some. Now, hand signal's quite simply this. If your riding coach comes past you and does this, what do you think he's telling you?
Turn now.
Yeah, turn there. Right, not there and there and there and everywhere else I've seen you try and turn in the last 2-3 corners I've followed you. Turn there, next to the cone. When your front wheel's next to the cone, you turn the motorcycle in. The idea is to turn later to straighten the line, and then we get all the benefits of the line being straightened. We don't have to turn it that much later, but it does need to be later, and we do need to know where we're going to turn to overcome all those survival reactions of turning early. Leicestershire Police gave me a statistic a couple of years ago. 98% of the accidents they had that involved a motorcycle on its own, with no other vehicle involved, 98% were people running wide on the exit of the turn because they'd turned in too early. Okay, so, okay, we're on a racetrack today, but this is absolutely an important rule for you to use out on the road as well. Once we've got the basics of good throttle control and getting the bike stable, we need to start to work on the visual skills. This starts at the end of level 1 with the two-step. The two-step is a method of gathering information about the turn before you actually start to commit to it. Now, we all look into the corner already, but the two-step allows us to get very precise information about what we need to do next before we actually turn the bike in. Two steps are this. First step is to locate where you're going to turn in. So that's step 1. Okay, so from back here. Now, once you know where you're going to turn the bike in, provided you don't mess with the bike in any way, will it go to that place? Yes. Should do, shouldn't it? Okay, so once you know where you're going to turn, okay, motorcycle's starting to head towards it. So you go, great, that's good. Now you know it's definitely going to head there, you can actually take your attention off of the cone and start to look for your apex point. But actually what we need to do is combine the looking in with the turn point now. Combine the two things together. So we can look in early to discover where we want to go before we actually turn next to the cone. Is that making sense? So by the time you get to here, you already know where you're going to end up there. What effect is that going to have on your riding? You're going to feel more relaxed, aren't you? Remember I said this morning, you said we're going to take your riding apart and slowly put it back together? Well, this is the final bit. This is the glue that makes it go click and into place. And so good is this particular drill at doing that, that you actually can forget about all those things. Okay? You can forget all those. All you've got to concentrate on this, which is this drill that we call the two-step. When you're going to have to turn your head? Before you turn the bike. Yeah, before you turn the bike. Okay? So you're going to come along, you're going to see your turn point's out there, you see the cone coming along, you go, right, there's the cone. Okay, bike's definitely heading towards it. That's where I want to go next. Actually, if I do that, how am I going to keep a track of the cone? Yeah, can you start using some peripheral vision, some of this stuff over here? How much of this stuff are you using at the moment? It's like that, isn't it? Might as well go... Yeah? 2 steps. Turn your head before you turn the bike. I remember I said at the beginning of the day that you need to have a certain amount of attention for you to be able to learn. Well, this is the most important drill of the day. In fact, this is the most important drill, as far as I'm concerned, that we teach. So I want you to ride at a speed that allows you to do it correctly, because this is what brings it all together. So sure, ride with gears and brakes, but I want to see no more than 85%.
The steering drill. Unlike some of the school's more infamous off-track bikes, but more on those later, the steering drill uses nothing more than you and your machine. Using the counter-steering technique from level 1, Paul Dedman showed me how the drill is supposed to look. Trained by Keith Coate himself, Paul is the school's only other off-track specialist. That's both sides of the pond. As you can see, Paul's got his work cut out.
Something I've noticed you do is when you make the bike go to the left, your body twists to the right. And when you make the bike go to the right, your body twists to the left. Now, this is what you do on dirt bikes, but it's not suitable for street bikes, okay? On a street bike, you need to keep your weight in the centre of the bike all the time. So when the bike leans over this way, you come with it. I've got the bike, it's not going to fall over. And when the bike goes this way, the same, okay? So all the time, your centre line stays in the centre line of the bike. You go as one. Go with the motorcycle, okay? So try it again. This time, go with it, out and back. Okay? In this exercise, you don't need to move your backside at all. It's just arms. Yeah, you're shifting your weight in the seat. And for this exercise, I don't care what you do on track or on the road, but for this exercise, this is just arms. So it's just push the bar forward in the direction you want to go.
On level 2, we're working on visual skills. The change line drill enables the rider to understand and appreciate how much space they actually have to use in any given corner. We tend to get stuck on one line most of the time. The eyes tend to stick to the bits that they know or think that they know. Change lines drill allows several different lines that will all work with good throttle control through any given turn. How would you describe a confident rider in terms of line? Do they just have one? Or do they have several? Okay, why do they have several? Conditions change, don't they? Surface changes. Things will be changed with every lap. There might be somebody in the way of you. You need to have a variance of line to be able to understand how well you can do the corner. We take Rossi as an example. You ever notice that on quite a number of tracks, even though he's been there before, that when he does the first session on the Friday morning, he's normally running somewhere in the region of about 12th, 14th? You ever notice that? You know, it's Valentino Rossi. What the hell's he doing down there? If you go out on track and watch him in these first sessions, guess what he's doing? He's going out there and finding out what different lines he can use. But from that point on, when he understands and each corner and understands what he can and can't get away with, then all of a sudden, front row again. But he takes time to understand what all the corners are doing and what lines he can run through the turns. And that's exactly what we're going to do on this session. First 3 laps, there's going to be no overtaking, okay? And I'm going to want you to run at about 50%. So it gives you time to understand what you're looking at, looking for new RPs, understanding what the track actually does, okay? Like I said, no overtaking on the first 3 laps, so just be one bike behind the other. When you finish those 3 laps, okay, I want you to stay out on track, but I now want you to use that new knowledge that you had to start experimenting with line. Okay, see what you can discover more. See if you can find a better line through the turn or an alternative line through the turn. As long as you have good throttle control, then the line's good. So as long as you can start the gas, roll it evenly, smoothly, continuously through the turn, then you found a line that works. If you find a line where you are able to crack the gas but have to hesitate or roll out, the line's not good for you. Okay, so that's how you're going to define if you found a better line or not. Does that make sense? After those first 3 laps, overtaking is allowed again, but please take caution. Everybody's going to be out there experimenting, trying different things, so the person in front absolutely has the right of way on this drill. You're going to discover something very, very interesting about the track doing this drill. Extremely interesting. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's certainly going to help your visual skills today, tremendously. Drill's called change lines. Riding format, like I said, is going to be no brakes, 3rd, 4th gear. Most riders are very lazy at the end of the turn and they don't actually do much other than roll the throttle on. The pickup drill allows them to roll the throttle on harder, get more drive out the turn. In wet conditions, it allows them to control a slide if they have one. It's a very beneficial drill, and it allows them to have something to do at the end of the turn, not just at the beginning of the turn and the middle of the turn. Okay, this is going to be my motorcycle. Okay, so here in the turn, the bike's already coming up out of the corner. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to quicken that last bit. But I kept my body still. If you ride the bike upright, you don't hang off, you're here. Okay, you're coming out of the turn, the bike's coming upright, you're going to push the bike away, you're going to keep your lean angle so you can get more drive. So what do you do to get the bike to go in? Let's say right-hand turn, which bar do you push on? Right. Okay, so how are you going to make the bike come out?
Push left.
No.
Push right. Push the one in the middle.
Okay, if you push the inside bar to make it go into the turn.
Push the outside bar.
No, if you push the outside bar, look what's going to happen. You're here, you're going to try and push on the outside bar. Good. You're going to pull on the inside bar. It's exactly the same thing, but you've got control here by pulling on the inside bar. By pushing on the outside bar, your arm's extending. It's not going to be as effective. But pulling on the inside bar is going to bring the bike up. Added to that, when you pull on the inside bar, you can do that at the same time. Whereabouts in the corner do we want to do it? Do we want to do it from the apex? If you try and do it from the apex, your body weight doesn't have enough effect on the bike and you'll run wide. There is an exception to that. You can do it from the apex if you get the rear to spin up. I have to mention it. If you ever watch MotoGP, Danny Pedrosa is very, very, very good at this technique. He does it almost in every single corner all the time and always off the apex. But he's always got the thing spinning up as he does it. Now, because the thing's spinning up, he's not getting much drive. So as the back end starts to spin and come round, it straightens his line up out of the corner. But as he picks the bike up, the tyre starts to grip, and that's how he gets to shoot out of the turn. If you want to ride well in the wet, then this is an absolute technique that you need. Okay, because the speeds are slower in the wet, you can do it sooner in the corner. Okay, and if you're coming out, if you think about what you're doing here, you're adding more acceleration. The more acceleration you add, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Back end starts to spin, and if it starts to spin, it's coming round on you. But if you're already pulling on that inside bar and picking the bike up, you're already bringing the bike into the slide. Okay, so you're already correcting anything that might occur. Now, the idea is to quicken the steering at the end. Okay, so we're going to be looking at doing it this sort of part of the turn, like last little bit. If you look at it in view of timing, you're just looking to quicken it. So instead of it taking, let's say, 2 seconds to come upright from about here, about 20 degrees, you're looking to do it in 1 second. Okay, so it's just a conscious pull on that inside bar, but not a sharp pull. Sharp pull, the bike will flick up, but then you can't do anything with the throttle. You gain nothing by doing that. It's just going gradually, 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 quicker. This bike is probably the most famous bike at the school. The lean bike is also the slide bike, the slide machine, which we'll talk about in a later episode. The purpose we have in the earlier levels is to use this as the lean bike. Now, as the lean bike, we use this to ensure that everybody's body position is correct on the bike and that they're looking in the right place. The rider rides round on this bike in a circle, and it gives us, the coaches, a very, very clear, obvious understanding of exactly what the rider's doing while they're trying to hang on to the bike. If they're not locked in correctly here, then they'll put too much pressure on the handlebars here, and it'll make the bike feel unstable. We can move around on their body position on the bike and how they lock into the bike to enable them to lean over the bike with more confidence.
Go faster and put it on your knee, I don't mind. If you think about your centre line as being in line with the centre line of the bike but just offset to the inside, then it will mean that everything's moved over and it will be much easier to get your knee down. Plus, you'll take everything with you. All of your upper body will be off to the side, all right? I'm going to turn him round because he's getting dizzy.
So much better.
Did you notice the difference between the rights and the lefts?
Yeah.
When you were going around to the left, because your body shape was slightly different and you were more offset to the inside, as soon as your knee went down, you could feel it immediately.
It's weird because I've got this problem with knee siders. These are perfectly flat.
Yeah.
Same position.
Yeah.
This side, they're always wonky. It's always, that's due to, not because of peg, it's just because of my body position. I can feel it as well.
The majority of people that we see deal with rights and lefts differently. They prefer one or the other. Clearly in your case you prefer the left, you're much more confident in it, which means that you commit to it by taking everything with you. In the right,
you tend to push it away from you. So you push the bike down in the right to leave yourself kind of distance from it, you know? And it's very hard to change that, which is why we don't cover it on the first day. It's only on the second day and beyond that we start messing with body position. You get the idea? Yeah. Okay, that was good.
By the time we get to level 3, we're working on advanced body position. The hook turn allows us to tighten the line mid-corner or even at the entry or exit of the corner. It's a way of positioning our body on the bike to influence it without actually making it unstable, which, as we all know, is not a pleasant feeling.
Welcome to level 3. We'll make no apologies today. By the end of today, your legs should hurt if you're doing it right. Okay. So today's exercise, the first level is the hook turn. Okay. It's called the hook turn simply because of the shape that we're trying to create. So if you imagine a fish hook, and you've got a constant radius and then it tightens towards the end, you know, the barb at the end of a fish hook, that's the shape you're trying to create with the hook turn. So, have you ever gone into a corner and wished you had a slightly tighter line than maybe you'd set? Yeah? Maybe you've come across a diesel patch or a puddle you may see today and think, oh, it's grabbed your attention, and wished you could have maybe tightened the line a little bit. Yeah. Sounds something that we all like to do. Typically your option is to turn the motorcycle again, isn't it? So you'd roll out, you'd steer, but we're leant over. You know, it breaks rule number 1, doesn't it? One steering input per turn. Okay. So we need something that affects the geometry of the motorcycle without steering it. Okay. And you think of something that has a huge effect on a motorcycle? You? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you make up a good portion of the mass of the motorcycle, don't you? So if the bike was, say, horizontal, and that's where we got on the bike, and we sat in the middle, we compress it horizontally. If we move our weight forward, we're trying to do this. Okay? Make sense? So, we're going left. So, we're trying to tighten the corner, but also to pull the motorcycle in. Okay? So, this isn't really pitching the motorcycle forward, is it? Okay? Our weight is still central on the motorcycle. Okay? Here, the weight, this mass is moving forward now. Okay? So, we're not looking for you just to lean into the corner. We're looking for this body mass to move forward and in. This mass needs supporting with something. Normally it's the arms. Okay, so you're riding like this, and it's fine. It's nice and easy. What we don't want you to do is to get into this extreme position and put weight on this bar. Okay, because what's that going to do? It's just going to turn the bike, isn't it? Okay, which is the exact opposite of what we're trying to do. You could have just steered the bike if that's what we're going to do. So, to be able to support this mass, we need to take that load. Where do you think we're going to take that load with? With your legs. So, we need to be locked in. We need a stable base to be able to take this weight. Okay, so we're here, we've got all the points of contact, legs locked on, and we're able to lower this mass without putting any weight on the bars. Okay? So the action is, we're in a left-hand turn, and we want to tighten the arc. So we're lowering the mass forward. And again, there's no weight on the bars. So, climb on board. Okay. So what bike do you ride?
675.
Okay, right, so get into your... Oh, it'll be a journalist, will it, eh? So, not that much. Half of this cheek, if you don't mind me prodding you. Go back, that's it. Because now... when you go to there, this leg starts to open out. Okay, so you want as much of this leg in purchase with that tank as possible. So we're going left, and then down, 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 as much as we can. As much of it, that's it. It is an exaggerated position, so don't think of this as a natural body position. We're trying to get in to the lowest, most forward position we can for the amount of time we need it. And then we come out of it. So don't think I'm going to make you ride around like this for 20 minutes. We want you today to be as stable as you can. I mean, you're going to hear that word a lot today, stability. Making you and the motorcycle act as one. Okay, so whichever gives you the best purchase works for you.
Most of the drills that we teach, riders tend to do already. Knee to knee, we've never done before. It was discovered by Keith Code as a method of keeping us more stable when we move from one side of the bike to the other. Most of us tend to lift out of the seat when we do this. Knee to knee allows the rider to move from one side of the bike to the other in a chicane or an S without actually destabilising the bike. I'll go through the mistakes. If you want to move around on the bike, if you're right up against a fuel tank, The moment you start to move, look what happens to my outside leg. It starts to come away from the fuel tank. So the first thing you need to do is give yourself some space. So you need to move back from the tank. Right? Ideally, you want about a fist distance between the back of the tank and your wedding tackle. Okay, I think that's the politest way I can put that. Right, now when you move, your legs are locked here. Okay, and as you move on the bike, you've still got a lock there. So bearing in mind, this is the point where you're on the bike and you're trying to get it to go from here to here because you're in a chicane. Okay, so if you do this, you immediately steady yourself on the bars. So how effective is your steering input going to be? Because you're going to steady yourself here. So one arm's going to act against the other arm. So what we need to do is, so we have no influence on the bars, slide. Slide across the seat. Happy with that? All right. This is still wrong. See if you can see why. Lose contact with the tank, then. Okay, I'm locked in here, but as I move across, big gap, locked in. So this point here, again, how am I going to steady myself? Use the handlebars. Okay, so what we have here is the brake rig. The brake rig is a bike that was invented by Keith Code. The problem in the early 80s were riders were taught that they needed just to use the rear brake to slow the bike down. These arms allow us to get somebody to use the front brake really hard. In fact, we want them to lock the front wheel. And this is what these outriggers are for. These are here so that if you lock the front end up and the bike does go to crash, then these outriggers here stop the rider from falling off. What we want them to do is lock the brake so we can teach them to feed the brake off gently so the wheel starts to turn again and they're still braking but have regained control on the bike. That's the purpose of this rig.
Bringing the brake off nice and easy without re-squeezing it. The front end was bouncing up and down, okay? So get it down, get it to lock, and then just bring it off gradually. And when you feel that the wheels come in line, just hold it at that pressure till it stops, right? One more thing, when you apply the brakes, grip the tank with your knees. It will stop you sliding forward and then it will allow you to get weight off the bars. How did that feel?
That's almost better. This is the first one to that, yeah. Right. It's amazing what you do with grip the tank and let everything flow rather than panic.
This is it.
Yeah.
So when you grip the tank with the knees, did you feel immediately the bars started to turn, you could feel it?
Yeah.
And then you could get some brake off and get it to go straight, yeah? Good. That was really good. Well done.
And now, back to the knee to knee.
Show us how you do that while you're on the bars as well.
Yeah, sure. When you're here. I've done it a few times. On you get then, let's have a go. Stop. How well locked in do you feel?
Not tremendously.
So what you did was you did that. How well are you locked in? Okay, take your hands off the bars. Yeah, okay, you're falling off, aren't you? Yeah. Okay, so don't put your arse as far off of the seat. All right, so put it. You want to be about there. Yeah. All right, now take your hands off the bars. Feel more stable? Yeah. Okay. Don't let the momentum swing you too far out the seat. Okay, try it again. That's better. Okay, don't lift, drag. Good. Good. You want to do it again?
It's difficult to get an ideal position on the seat, isn't it, when you're not going around? But
Yeah. But if you can't get an ideal position on the seat statically, then you find it harder out there because you've got so much going on.
Yeah.
And when you move across the bike, make sure that outside leg is locked. And if it feels a little bit unstable, the outside leg, is because you move your bum too far out the seat. That is actually, your bum in the seat is another point of contact that you need to use to give you stability. That's why we slide across the seat rather than lifting out the seat. Okay? Now this is new to you. You've moved across the bike before, but you've never done it in this way with stability. So it is going to require quite a bit of concentration for you to get it right. Once a rider's managed to master knee to knee, we add a second part to this, which is called hip flick. Hip flick is essentially the timing of the movement from one side of the bike to the other, whilst the knee to knee part of the drill is the part that actually gives the stability. So when you go down the straight and you're going to end up into a corner, what do you tend to do with your body position? When do you set up for the corner? Early. And we're going through a fast section like Surtees down here. We need to actually set ourselves up for the corner before we actually get there and go through. So when the bike's here, leant over to the left-hand side, we actually want to already be here, ready for the bike to go right. Okay? So we're here. Before the bike actually moves, we want to set ourselves into position here. Now, how am I going to move myself across the bike? Yeah, use this knee as leverage. Okay, so you're here. If you push that knee into the tank, it will bring your body across. The only other alternative that you have is to be here, is to push on the outside peg, sorry, the inside peg, which is going to then lift you out the seat, and it's going to make the bike feel unstable. Okay, so we're going to move our body position across from here, and push that into the tank and bring our bum over. So we're not breaking the golden rule of going with the bike. Okay, because the upper body is still in line with the bike. It's just the lower body's moved across, ready for when we flick it over to the right-hand side. Okay, so this is just a point of timing more than anything else. At the moment you're moving with the bike, and we need to change that so you move ahead of the bike. Does that make sense? Push this into the tank so it brings your bum over. Good, keeping grip with the tank, that's good. Bike moves, you move. Good. Do it again for me. There, okay, bike moves, you move. Excellent.
I've not had the pleasure of riding a slide bike, and it does instill a bit of fear in me.
What we have here is the slide bike, another one of the off-track machines that we use at the Superbike School. When Keith Code invented the slide bike, he wanted riders to be able to experience a rear-wheel slide and to learn how to control it. What we have on the slide bike here are some outriggers, and as you can see, they've got quite a lot of movement in them. This is to allow the bike to lean over, so the bike feels fairly real to the rider when they're on it and doing the slide bike drill. The hydraulic damping here is to actually slow the bike down once it slides. What riders have a tendency to do is, when the rear slides, is chop the throttle. If you chop the throttle when the bike slides, you're going to end up in a high side. That means you'll go from here and fire yourself all the way over that side of the bike, and I can tell you from personal experience, that really hurts. One of the misconceptions we have with the slide bike, because of these arms and because of the dampers, is that it's uncrashable. Well, although the bike is held up by the dampers here, as you can quite clearly see, it's not an uncrashable bike.